probate real estate investing.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to say, not exactly a term you hear tossed around at your average backyard barbecue.
Right.
But for those who are in the know,
Yeah.
and you, our awesome listeners, definitely fall into that category.
For sure.
Well, there's a certain intrigue to it,
Absolutely.
like a hidden gem.
Hmm.
And today, we're diving headfirst into Coach Nick Capra's playbook on this very topic.
Yeah, his guide is...
And let me tell you, it's dense.
It's packed.
Like, we're talking insider secrets here.
And you can tell he's speaking from experience.
I know, absolutely. Seasoned pro, for sure.
Yeah, years of it.
So, to kick things off, one thing that really jumped out at me,
Okay.
Capra constantly talked about this constant supply of leads when it comes to probate real estate. Now, I get that life and unfortunately passing on isn't exactly influenced by, the stock market or anything like that.
It's its own thing.
But how does that translate to actual opportunities in real estate that someone like me, or more importantly, our listeners, could tap into?
Okay, so picture this. Every single day, properties are hitting the market, right? But
That-
here's the difference. It's not because of some fluctuating market or, interest rates going haywire. It's simply because, well, it's the circle of life, right?
But
And these aren't just your run-of-the-mill properties either. Often they've been owned for ages, sometimes decades, by the same folks.
oh, I see.
Meaning often less of that legal hassle, less red tape, smoother transactions,
So you're saying it's a bit more of a, predictable stream of leads? Less of the ups and downs of the typical real estate market.
Less of a roller coaster, more of a steady flow.
I like the sound of that. Okay, but let's address the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
And maybe this is just me being overly cautious here, but how do we approach this ethically?
Sure.
Because Capra talks a lot about helping families move on, which I love the sentiment.
Of course, yeah.
But isn't there, a fine line between genuinely offering a needed service and, well, almost taking advantage of a very sensitive situation?
It's a valid concern, and honestly, it's a question Capra addresses head-on in the guide.
Okay, good.
You see, the reality is when a family inherits a property, especially during probate, they're often dealing with a lot. Grief, obviously.
Of course.
But also probate court, legal fees, sometimes medical bills they weren't even aware of.
It's a lot to navigate.
It can be overwhelming. So they're not always looking for the highest bidder.
Right.
Often they just want the easiest, most straightforward, most compassionate solution.
So it's about understanding their needs,
Exactly.
not just seeing dollar signs or a potential deal.
You got it.
Okay, I'm with you on that. So let's dive into the practical side of things.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because Chapter 1 of this guide jumps right into essential tools and resources.
Okay.
And honestly, it reads like a detective's handbook.
That's a good way to put it.
Intellius Premier Obituary Archives.
Right.
This isn't your average Zillow browsing session anymore, is it?
No, it's next level.
We're talking real detective work.
Targeted research.
I'm into it.
It is kind of fun, right?
Okay, so break it down for me. What's this Intellius Premier thing?
Right.
Because I'll be honest, I've never even heard of it.
So think of it like this. You find an obituary that seems like a good fit.
Okay.
Someone over 60, maybe their spouse passed away previously, no surviving spouse listed.
Right, fits the criteria.
Exactly. That's your starting point. Now, you take their information, plug it into Intellius Premier, and boom, you get this detailed report. You can see if they actually own the property, if there are any outstanding debts, liens, even find out if they had other properties that weren't even mentioned in the obituary.
Wow.
It's powerful stuff.
So we're talking like connecting the dots, making sure we're targeting the right opportunities, being sensitive to families who actually need this kind of help, right?
You got it. This isn't about spamming neighborhoods with offers. It's about being strategic, being respectful, and that's where those obituary archives come in.
Okay, so walk me through that. How do we use those effectively?
Capra, he's big on this. He says to focus on obituaries that are about 70 days old.
70 days? That seems oddly specific.
There's a method to the madness. See, most probate cases, they become public around the 90-day mark.
Interesting.
So by starting your research at 70 days, you're getting a head start, you're prepared, but you're not, stepping on any toes right out of the gate.
You're being proactive, but respectfully so.
Exactly.
But he also talks about focusing on certain types of obituaries, right?
So we're picking up on that good.
Like there's a strategy even within the obituary search itself.
Exactly. He suggests looking for those obituaries, like we talked about, individuals over 60 who were either, and this is important, either their spouse passed away before them or there's no surviving spouse listed.
Okay. I'm no probate lawyer or anything, but why is that so important? What's the reasoning there?
It's actually pretty straightforward when you think about it. Someone in their 60s or older, they're far more likely to own their home outright.
Right. Makes
No
sense.
mortgage, no lender complications.
Maybe less roadblocks.
Exactly. Now, if they've outlived their spouse, well, the property often falls to children, maybe other heirs who might not even live nearby. They might have their own families, their own lives. And to be honest, they're dealing with a lot emotionally.
Right. Grief is a heavy thing.
Absolutely. So in those situations, selling that house quickly, it becomes a priority.
It's not about holding on to a property for sentimental value as much.
Exactly. It's about finding a solution, and fast. It's not about holding on to a property for sentimental reasons. It's about finding a solution.
And quickly, right.
Exactly.
Because they've got a million other things going on.
Exactly. They're not thinking about, oh, let's wait for the perfect market conditions.
Right, right. It's about simplifying, moving forward.
Exactly.
Okay, this is all making a lot of sense. So it's not just about finding any property. It's about understanding those family dynamics, understanding the potential urgency of the situation.
You're getting it.
It almost sounds like, and I don't know, maybe this is too touchy-feely for the real estate world,
Okay.
but it sounds like Capra's advocating for almost like a delicate dance here, not a real estate brawl.
Yes. It's not about being the most aggressive. It's about being the most understanding, the most helpful.
I like that.
And he even talks about this idea of building your probate list.
Okay.
Like a super organized, meticulously crafted system
Okay.
for tracking these potential leads.
Got it.
And this really resonated with me because it's not just about like jotting down addresses on a sticky note.
No, of course not.
You know, he provides this whole spreadsheet template,
Okay.
which sounds kind of basic, right?
Sure.
But it's genius. You've got columns for the deceased person's name, their date of death, the property address, contact info for the executor, if there is one.
Right.
It's incredibly valuable for staying organized,
Yeah.
but more importantly,
Yeah.
being respectful.
Yeah. And you know what? Our listeners, they know organization is key.
It makes all the difference.
But beyond that, I'm sensing a theme here.
Okay.
It's about respecting the people behind the properties.
100%. Because you have to remember, when you're in the probate world, you're dealing with families at a very delicate, vulnerable time in their lives.
Absolutely.
They're not just clients, they're individuals who just experienced a loss. So having a system like the spreadsheet that Capra lays out,
Right.
it's not just about efficiency. It's about treating each lead, each situation with the care and the sensitivity they deserve.
Right, because you're not just dealing with numbers on a spreadsheet at that point.
Exactly.
These are real people with real lives.
You're not letting details slip through the cracks because each one of those details
Right.
is a person's life.
Represents something significant.
Exactly.
Okay, that's powerful. So we talked about identifying opportunities, being organized, but of course, communication is key, right?
Huge.
And Capra, he dedicates a whole chapter to crafting the right message.
Yeah.
Even gives you letter templates, which is incredibly helpful.
It's like a cheat code.
It is. But he's very clear that this isn't a one-size-fits-all situation.
Oh, absolutely not.
You can't just copy and paste.
And this is where things get really interesting because he gives you different templates depending on who you're actually reaching out to.
Okay, like what?
Like, are you reaching out to the executor of the estate
Right?
or are you reaching out to the trustee of a living trust?
Okay, hold up.
Yeah,
For those of us who, haven't gone through this, what's the difference?
good question. An executor, they're named in a will
Ah,
to handle the deceased person's estate.
makes sense.
They're responsible for paying debts, distributing assets, all that. A trustee, on the other hand,
Okay.
they manage assets that are held within a living trust, which is something that was set up while the person was still alive.
So it's a little bit different.
It's a different animal.
Okay.
So the way you communicate with them needs to reflect those different roles.
Different hats, different conversations.
Exactly.
But what about the tone of the message?
Right.
Because you're dealing with people who are grieving, so how do you balance that line between being professional but also acknowledging the sensitivity of the situation?
You hit the nail on the head. Capra, he talks about using language that's both Empathetic, but also solutions-oriented. So instead of just being like, hey, we buy houses, which can come off as a little cold,
Right.
he suggests saying something like, I understand you're handling the estate of, and then obviously use their name.
Right.
And I'd like to offer my condolences during this difficult time.
Okay.
It shows that you're there to help navigate the process. You're not just there to,
Pressure them.
Yeah, pressure them.
Yeah, because no one wants to feel like they're being taken advantage of.
Exactly.
Especially during a time like that.
It's about empathy.
So it's like, I don't know, it's like reading the room even if you're not physically in the room with them.
That's a great way to put it, because you're right. You're not face-to-face, so you have to be able to convey that through your words.
And it sounds like what you're saying is Capra's approach is all about understanding not just the legal financial aspects of the deal, but also the emotional landscape.
You got it. You have to see the human side of the situation.
It reminds me of that saying, people won't remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
100%.
And it feels like in this area, that's especially important.
Absolutely. And it goes beyond just that initial letter, too. Capra's a big advocate for consistent and respectful follow-up.
Okay, so you don't just send one letter and then disappear.
Exactly. You got to stay top of mind, but you got to do it the right way. He actually recommends reaching out, I don't know, every 30 days or so.
30 days, okay. So it's that balance, right? You're showing that you're serious, you're genuinely interested in helping, but you're not, becoming that annoying pest blowing up their phone every 5 seconds.
Exactly. You're present without being pushy.
I like that.
Yeah.
Because, no one wants to feel like they're being hounded, especially during a difficult time.
Absolutely.
But then, and this is where Capra threw me for a loop, he throws in this bonus tip that I never would have seen coming. He starts talking about affiliate opportunities with these companies that help heirs access, money from the estate faster.
Interesting.
And immediately my mind goes to those billboards you see, those "we buy houses for cash" sign, but something tells me this is a different animal.
Oh, yeah. This is not about those quick cash schemes. Not at all.
Okay, good. So what are we talking about here?
We're talking legitimate financial services that can be super valuable during probate. Imagine a family, they need to pay estate taxes or cover funeral expenses, but all the assets are tied up in probate court.
Right. It's in limbo.
Exactly. And it can take months, sometimes even longer, to get through that process. So these affiliate companies, they can bridge that gap, get those funds to the family quicker, ethically, and all above board.
Wow. Okay. So instead of just being the person who might buy the house down the line, you're connecting them with resources they might need right now, even if you never end up buying a single brick.
Precisely. You become a resource.
That's incredible. That really flips the script on like the whole investor persona.
It really does. It's about being a guide, a helpful presence during a time that's probably pretty overwhelming.
Wow. And I mean, what really struck me when I was reading this section is that Capra, he emphasizes that this isn't just, good karma.
Right.
It's good business.
Absolutely.
Because families who feel like you're on their side, who feel helped and respected, they're going to remember that.
Of course.
And when the time does come to sell that property, guess who they're going to call?
It's a no-brainer.
Exactly. So you're building that trust, that relationship from the start.
And that's invaluable because at the end of the day, people want to work with people they trust, people who they feel have their best interests at heart.
100%. We've covered a lot of ground here. We talked about the research tools, the targeted outreach, understanding those probate timelines.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. But I keep coming back to something Capra said early on, and it really stuck with me. He said, compassion can be just as valuable as market knowledge. And honestly, that's not something you hear every day, especially in the real estate world. It's refreshing.
It is. It's a good reminder that behind every property, every deal, there are human beings with real lives, real emotions.
It's about people.
Exactly. And if you can approach those situations with empathy, with genuine care and respect,
it makes all the difference.
It does. It's not just about the bottom line. It's about building relationships, about making a positive impact.
Well said. And, as we wrap things up here, I'm reminded of that quote, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
And I feel like in probate real estate, where emotions are running high, where family legacies are involved, that couldn't be more true.
Couldn't agree more.
So for our listeners out there, always on the lookout for that next opportunity, that, hidden gem in the real estate market, probate real estate investing. It might just be that diamond in the rough.
It could be. But like we've been talking about, it's not just about the numbers. It's about approaching it with the right mindset.
Absolutely, with empathy, with understanding, with that genuine desire to help. Well, that pretty much wraps up another deep dive.
This one was packed.
I know, right? Until next time, everyone, keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep those learner questions coming.
And remember, compassion, it's not just good for the soul, it's good for business.